Hey guys, Stealth here. Today we're following Faust, and he is doing a conquest game on Plungin Valley using a Scandinavian mechanized deck. Now in conquest games you usually don't have to worry about your income. You're going to be getting a lot of points, and that means a lot of units on the field. It is quite the opposite of the game that I showed you yesterday, which is a low point, the deck that I showed you yesterday, which is a low point tactical deck. This is the opposite. You want to have many units in your deck to make sure that you can keep going. Now, this is a 30-minute game. The goal is to get 500 points, and Faust mentioned in the description of this replay that it's going to be a very intense match between two strong teams. And he shows you that, as he mentioned it, how ridiculously spammy and powerful Scandinavian mechanized decks can be. So, let's see what he's going to put down. It seems like they're not entirely sure where to go yet. I saw these daps over here, then they deployed back there. They both have a infantry CV. Both are supposedly, yeah, they're both parked. No, this one's parked on the ground, the other one's over the tree, so this one's probably going to get moving. Now, I'm going to speed this up a little, because watching the deployment phase is not that interesting. What is interesting, by the way, is the M8 Panzerbill. It's a recon vehicle. I know of it, I just never used it, so I'm interested to see how he's going to use it. Other units we're seeing here is the STRV 105s, the accurate Chieftain line, automatics, PMNKs, and it seems like Faust is going to take the left, as his ally Mike is going to take the right flank. Now this Panzerbill, let's see about it. It's a cheap 15-point reconnaissance unit. Let me get the right unit here. Good optics, good speed. It has an M6 autocannon, although the accuracy on that is not that good. But I suppose you could say that with... Sorry, it's not an autocannon, it's a main gun. It only fires 20 rounds a minute, so it sits somewhere between being an autocannon and a main gun. Anyway, they already ran into the opposition here. That's pretty quick that these guys got here. It's a transport, and I saw some infantry in these buildings. He's immediately offloading Velskemjäger with the reconnaissance capacity. So these are the recon units, shock level training. Pushing up right through the open field, where they are going to take a lot of fire from these BTRs. So hopefully he can suppress those and kill off the Spetsnaz before they manage to entrench themselves in those buildings. And look at the amount of fire that these guys are putting down. SDRF's putting down fire, NM113s with their M2 Brownings. He has some AA infantry here. Sorry, some AT infantry here. I always get these confused. The RBS 56 and the 70s. A lot of lonely vehicles. He's not using groups in this system. They are being engaged heavily. VDVs are already punishing these guys. And these transports, including their infantry, because the armor penetration value of the VDV is so high, the infantry inside barely, if at all, survives. But with the fire that they're putting down here, it's very difficult for Redford to keep this up for long. Redford responds with an IL-102. Heavy damage on the STRF here. A couple of losses due to the infantry. And this is not going to go well for these Panzerskite. They cannot survive the Spetsnaz. That is, if they were alone. But with all the support that they're getting, they are actually going to survive. And now Bluefor has a nice little foothold in this sector. Let's see how the other flank is doing, because this is a position where Bluefor is also operating with some Leeugarden. RBS 56 versus Spetsnaz. This is another group of 30 units, or 30 infantry. A couple of transports here. This flank looks pretty weak. And it seems that Redford is not really that intent on capturing this position yet. Bluefor is losing a bit of points. Redford has a +1, 35 points ahead by now. And look at that, they're deploying a large amount of Panzerbills here, including a 105. Those should be able to take down these transports and the infantry that's inside it with their very high accuracy. Even on the move, these guys have an accuracy of 50% due to their veterancy. So the transports are getting taken out, but they just managed to get out of range here. And this left flank is just getting completely overwhelmed by Morskayas. A couple of BTR 80s here. RBS 56 are trying to put up a fight, but no. Now he has a Fennec 20mm over here. The question is, what is he going to do with it? Because without reconnaissance, it's not really an effective unit. You're going to have to be pretty much on top of the enemy unit that you want to be firing at in order to actually be able to fire at it. And while those units can be useful, unfortunately it went down there. While they can be useful, they definitely are not that good against heavily armored vehicles. They need to get too close to that. Now some vehicles going up here, and the STRFs are just below them, so they cannot actually see them or aim at them. You can see that this cliff is just getting in the way between these transports. But the Panzerskeeter can get up here and easily wipe out these BTR-80s. Another group of VDV bites the dust after the STRFs unleash on them. And there you go, that's one BTR-80 down, and the other one down. Excellent use of offloading infantry here, putting them back in after the battle is done, and probably packing them up and shipping them out there. Over here in the north, they've pushed up. Wow, they've pushed up very, very far when I wasn't looking here. Very impressive. Blue 4 is now at a +3. Red 4 has lost their CV here, but it's not the end of the game yet, because we're only at 8 out of 25 minutes, so everything can still change here. We have managed to capture a fob. So that means that in this circle are no enemy units. But as soon as Red 4 recaptures this area, and I think that that's going to happen very soon, since this STRF cannot fire, and the automatic probably is not going to be able to kill off these T-72s before dying to 1 round, maybe 2 rounds from a T-72. If they bring in their CV again, it's bye-bye for Blue 4, because they are not going to be able to capture this area. They have managed to take a pretty decent amount of land here. If they can get a CV here and or here, that's going to make them really gain points very quickly. And I mean even faster than the +3 that they're already at. Fighting Falcon comes in. This one is the one with 2 1000 kilogram bombs, and they're probably trying to find that CV. Unfortunately, in a conquest game, you don't know if you actually got the unit, because you don't see the +25, +50, +100 from kills that you're making. So, more Panzerskeeter are entrenched here. They got their work cut out for them as a large amount of VDVs engages them. But, considering the amount of VDV backed up by tanks that's going out here, I don't think that these guys are going to survive for too long without support. Automatic just shoots down on IL-102 before the rise. Let's see what the other jet is. That's an SU-25. Sorry, another IL-102. And it probably will get wiped out as well by the auto. If he can get it. Yep, he managed to get it. And there it goes. That's 2 IL-102s down. That's all you get in one card of IL-102s. So he does not have to worry about the bombers anymore. But, yeah, something took out these units very quickly, and there was probably a seed plane also coming in here. So still a +2 for Blue 4, but Red 4 has managed to recapture their main spawn. I'm getting pretty curious as to where that CV is. Right here. Pretty much to the front line of where Blue 4 managed to go. And the T-72s were the ones who took out that automatic that Blue 4 had there. VDVs, as expected, pushed up and wiped out the Panzerskeeter here. Now let's see if these STRFs or STRVs can take out the Concourse before the Concourse can retaliate. And let's see if we can predict the outcome of this fight. 15 frontal armor, 18 penetration. 10 frontal armor, 16 penetration. So the T-72 definitely has the advantage here. There goes the reconnaissance. But more reinforcements are being brought up with more ATGMs. The RBS-56 though does not have a great range. It is the same range as a tank, 2275. The armor penetration of those is very, very high. But you know, or you need to make sure you're not getting hit before you can actually deliver the punch from those ATGMs. This is the engagement between the B1 and the 105. The 105 managed to hit, but did not do a lot of damage. So hopefully these STRFs can offload their ATGM infantry in here, and then use the main gun of themselves to engage the VDV. Here go the RBS 56. Now as you can see, it's not a very fast missile, but it's fast enough. STRV took a hit, but is still standing. And this is not good. A lot of Spetsnaz here. And they're probably going to try to reclaim this village. It seems that Blue 4 has focused also on capturing the left side. And the right side is very safely under the control of Blue 4 as far as territory is concerned. But Red 4 still has a CV here. And they put down an attack marker there. That might be where the CV is. Yeah, it's pretty much exactly where the CV is. So they know where it is. They just cannot really get to it yet. Although I suppose that with one bomber, if you don't mind losing it, you can just send it out there and destroy it. RBS 56 unfortunately getting flushed out of their building by a napalm bomber. And the STRV... the STRF 9040s, which were protecting them, got destroyed by the T-72s. Now his ally deployed some deltas here, but deltas against Spetsnaz is still not a very good bet. And yep, there's still some Morskaya Pichota out here. So let's see if they can get those Morskayas in time. More Morskayas. This is a very good use of these NM135s, although I suppose they could have stayed a little bit farther away to make sure that they weren't going to get in range of the Morskayas, but he might not have known where exactly they were. See if the autocannons are suppressing them. They're slowly but steadily doing morale damage and actual damage to the unit. And this is why he has the Panzerbills in here. These things fire very quickly, reasonably accurate, and they're a nice companion for the transports and the stormers. Something I had never considered, but it is a good way of using these units. Tunguska engaging a Draken here. Draken did not make it out alive. And unfortunately Blue 4 does not have a lot of AA, they only got the automatic here. But that's more than enough to take down a Yak. They're offloading some command infantry to neutralize this zone. And suddenly Red 4 is at a +2 again. So the game is really going back and forth right quick. It's unfortunate that Blue 4 couldn't wrap up that last CV, because that would have just suddenly ended the game. But so far, they're doing a very good job. Both teams are doing a great job at making a comeback. Let's see, Red 4 seems to be pushing up with a T-72 and another T-72A. So they have some guns in the position here, but do they know where the enemy is? I don't think that they have recon, otherwise these things would be firing. Okay, Blue 4 put their CV, their infantry command, in this sector, neutralizing it. They can do the same on that side. They at least neutralize the advantage that Red 4 has, and they're no longer gaining points. MLU coming in. Right place, wrong time. They could take down those tanks, but there is a Tunguska M that just entered this sector. Hopefully he has a seedplane in his deck. If not, he might struggle with taking out that, there you go, that Tunguska. They know where it is. And yeah, that's another way of taking out a Tunguska. Just use the Maverick missiles that are mounted on the MLU. And the MLU made it out unharmed. Now, it seems like there's a bit of a lull in the combat. Both sides are trying to reinforce their positions. You can see that Red 4 seemingly has a bit of infantry in here. Let's see how much exactly they got. Yeah, a bit of Spetsnaz GRU, base Spetsnaz to make sure that this position cannot get taken over again. More Spetsnaz to hold these buildings. And Faust is bringing in a lot more NM113s to make sure he can deploy infantry all along this line. If you don't do that, you run the risk of having Red 4 infantry suddenly appearing out of this forest, crossing over, and then suddenly starting to cause all sorts of trouble for your cap. Now, nice combination here with a wild weezer, a wild weasel, a nighthawk, and a 15D. But they did not manage to get the CV. Instead, they bombed the hell out of this position. You can see the huge craters underneath these buildings. But one man from the Morskaya Pequotas managed to survive here. Now, it shouldn't be too difficult for Blue to push here, because the Spetsnaz are not really a threat to that M1IP. The VDV are, though, and they have more VDV in reserve. The one thing I don't really get is why Blue is just not using artillery. This, by the way, is interesting. Red 4 managed to get a Hind behind enemy lines, and the Hind was deploying Spetsnaz GRU. So they are pushing in, trying to actually get reconnaissance into this sector to either be better at, able at countering whatever Blue is bringing in, or to make sure that they can find and destroy the Blue CV. This takes patience, by the way. You had to fly all the way around to make sure that the Spetsnaz GRU could get dropped off here, because you cannot just drop them off at a hillside here or even in these small clearings. The game does not accept that as a landing zone, so you got to go all the way over here, with high risk of being detected. But if you can pull it off, you have some Spetsnaz GRU behind enemy lines. Anyway, as I was saying, I'm not sure why Blue isn't just using artillery. Because if they had deployed some howitzers to fire at this position, that could have cleared out that CV pretty quickly. The game is once again quite neutral. 0-0 income for either side. Blue is leading by 100 points, almost. Now let's switch it back to Faust. You can see that a lot of transports are coming in. Some with manpads, some with base infantry. And there's a Wildcat here, with, which is an autocannon wielding reconnaissance tracked vehicle, I suppose you could say, or the reconnaissance version of the 113. It's pushing in, trying to find the Spetsnaz GRU, or at least having eyes out here to make sure that they can see whatever is going on. They also have a DAP here. Great anti-infantry unit with the twin M30 and the twin M1 and 34 to make sure that they can go after the infantry once they are spotted. Faust unfortunately lost a Falcon and an MLU here, so he lost quite a bit of air. And they still know where the CV is, they just cannot touch it. So again, I'm not sure why they weren't using artillery in this situation. Maybe they just don't have it in the deck. Maybe it didn't occur to them. I'm not sure. Seems like they are engaging this position now. And M113 just pushing up. And if they can get infantry in here, hopefully there's no Spetsnaz, they at least get a little bit of a foothold. With that foothold you can much easier reinforce this position. But it seems like Spetsnaz GRU is not in the mind to let these guys get too close. You can see that all that came out of this position, or out of this transport, is just LHVs, or reservists. Militia level training, 5-point unit, very very cheap. You can use them to spam, but don't expect them to stand up to especially Spetsnaz GRU or Spetsnaz for very long. More LHV. They seem to be trying to capture this building, or they might be going around. And more infantry is being offloaded and capturing this position, and it seems that Red Force decided to either evac their CV or it got destroyed. Let's see what went on here. Yeah, it seems that the Red Force CV got destroyed. So Blue Force again leading, +1. And unless Red 4 pulls a really big trick out of their hats, they're not going to make it this time. Because they only got 12 minutes left in order to gain another 100 points. Now it can be done if you can get a big enough advantage. IL-102 is going to wreck this entire area. You can see that they just neutralized whatever infantry managed to be in there. A couple of Rangers engaging some VDVs here. Hopefully the VDVs don't have time to engage the Abrams. They cannot see it for the moment, but if they get a little closer they can easily wipe it out. There you go. Another squad of VDVs. Over here they also deployed some more Livgarden or Liugarden. I'm still not sure how to pronounce that. I have to look that up. And Red 4 is definitely doing an incursion here. I'm not sure why Faust isn't using his LVKV here, because those can easily wipe out the transports and provide a bit of covering fire for the Leeugarden as they are pushing over this field. Maybe he's going to counter that with these transports and, of course, the accompanying infantry. And all of a sudden, Red 4 is leading again, because they managed to put a CV into this zone. So they neutralized Delta and suddenly cut off income, instead gaining income for themselves. So it's really an intense battle, going back and forth a lot. Now let's see about that Spetsnaz GRU group. Where did they end up? They managed to make it into the spawn, but now they're stuck here. Because the moment they get out here, they're going to have to kill that Wildcat, and that's when you really start to engage a lot of units. Because then Blue 4 knows where these guys exactly are. But being here, they're causing enough damage as is, because they can see this main road. They can see what Blue 4 is bringing in and counter it with any kind of unit that they can bring in. Now quite a bit of Panzerskeete here, engaging BTR-80s, Spetsnaz, VDVs. It's really a lot of forced fighting in this location. You can see the amount of units that are out here are all grouped up, or are all not grouped up, I should say. Except for the Leeugarden, which are operating here. And hopefully these transports can take out the Spetsnaz quickly. The Spetsnaz are going to cut through this infantry group with those RPO rises. And I think that Red 4 is just going to surrender, because they will probably see that this is a battle that they cannot win. I don't see Blue 4 surrendering anytime soon, but I'm not quite sure why the replay is going to end in 1 minute. They're still trying to push up, but again running into a Spetsnaz group, along with 20 VDVs, -1. So this is not something that's going to turn out well for the Leeugarden, or Leeugarden. And they're not getting a lot of support either. And this is a good situation. Blue 4 managed to spot 2 CVs, 1 infantry CV, and a base CV. That one might also be coming this way. And if they can neutralize that, I think they've cut quite deeply into the supplies CV-wise as far as Red 4 is concerned. These IL-102s are causing a ton of trouble. And I thought we had seen all the IL-102s, but they managed to do a bombing run there and then one here. So the other guy, either Hunter or Enotic, still has 102s in his deck. And there you go. Hunter decided to surrender, and that was probably when Enotic also decided to go. So Faust and Mike managed to get a positive ratio, but I gotta say, Hunter and Enotic are not far off. It was a really quite equal battle, and I definitely enjoyed watching it. If you did too, please hit the like button down below, and if you have an intense replay like this that you want me to show off on the channel, send it in. The link to doing so is in the description down below. Thanks for watching, hope you liked it, and I'll see you next time.